Welcome to the review of the Roku Premiere Media Streamer. If you're looking for the written version of this review, you can find a link to my website in the video description. This exact model number is 3920, which was released in 2019, but is still sold by Roku and even in stores today. It's currently being sold for $40 Canadian or $40 US, which is really weird because the Canadian dollar is much weaker than the American dollar. The remote is your typical Roku remote design, which means it's small and easy to use with one hand, thanks to most of the buttons being so close to one another. Although I wish there weren't app shortcut buttons on the bottom, since I don't use half those apps. It can be annoying if they're pressed by accident as well. It would have been better to have some customizable buttons instead. The remote is powered by two AAA batteries that are included in the box and uses IR technology to connect to the media streamer. There's also a remote app available for smartphones, which works incredibly fast and is well designed. Not only can you control the media streamer with it, but you can also pair headphones to your mobile device for private listening. Switching over to the media player, it's incredibly small, measuring at 3.3 by 1.4 by 0.7 inches. The front has a small LED power indicator and the top has a large Roku logo. On the back are ports for HDMI 2.0A output, and yes, there's an HDMI cable included in the box. The next port is a micro USB port for power, unfortunately not USB-C, and a factory reset port. The power wire is 5 feet long and this device consumes a low 3 watts of power while in use. For connectivity, it primarily relies on Wi-Fi 4, which still works okay for 4K content playback, which I'll get back to shortly. Unfortunately, there's no Bluetooth built into this device for private audio listening with a wireless headset, but like I mentioned, if you pair the remote app, you can do it through your cell phone instead. According to the Roku developer support page, the Premiere has an ARM Cortex-A53 processor and 1GB of RAM. A lot of that technical details doesn't matter too much. What really matters is the performance of the media player itself, which I'll be demonstrating very shortly. When it comes to finding out the internal storage space of the media player, it's almost impossible. The Roku settings doesn't display anything on the media streamer itself, and looking at the Roku's developers page, there's nothing about storage capacity there. So when you're downloading a channel, which is what Roku refers to as their apps, it shouldn't be too concerned because the channel storage space taken up is very minute. The Premiere and controller only come in a black color. In the box, an adhesive tape so you can mount this behind your TV or behind on your TV itself. The media player is also compatible with Apple HomeKit, Amazon Alexa, and Google Assistant. Here's a quick demo command of me using it with Google Assistant. If you want to look for more commands, you can always just Google search it. Open Netflix on Basement Roku.
Okay, launching Netflix on Basement Roku.
Okay, so now we're switching over to the software, and I'm just going to give you a quick demonstration because you'll notice that it's rather limited. So the home section is basically a home selection of apps that you've chosen to install, or channels as Roku likes to call it, so you can always just select it with the asterisk button on the remote and remove it, move it around on your home screen and what have you, and even give it a rating. So one of the things to notice on the right side is advertised content. Even though it's from the Roku channel and it's for free, there will sometimes be paid content from applications that require subscription service. So Roku operating system now shows ads, unfortunately. So diving into opening Netflix, it's rather quick. Notice that anything you open recently will open rather quickly, but navigating through the interface, Netflix and Disney Plus are very heavy applications, but it seems to operate rather smoothly. Another important thing to keep in mind is that any 4K HDR content from Netflix, Disney Plus, or YouTube, whatever it may be, is incredibly sharp and clear. The picture quality is fantastic. Of course, you must have a good TV to output that content to your eyes. But again, I'm just demonstrating also the application performances. So switching over to Disney Plus, which is another kind of heavier app, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer to open than Netflix, it's still pretty good in terms of opening speed. So I'm going to fast forward this clip just ever so slightly. So switching over, I'm just going to fast forward this ever so slightly. And then here I've logged into my Disney Plus profile. And as you can see, it's rather snappy. The content is a little slow to load in terms of the preview icons. I think that's more of a network issue. Again, this is an incredibly heavy application. I think the images in these thumbnails are high quality. But generally navigating Disney Plus, which is one of the heavier apps, works just fine. If I hit the home button, it'll go straight to home within a couple of seconds. And of course, we have Prime Video, which is another very heavy application in terms of opening it up. On most media players, it's a little sluggish, depending on the performance, but as you can see, it's not bad. I didn't fast forward this content like I did with Disney Plus. Disney Plus is the slowest application to open, but Prime Video is not too bad. So diving into the YouTube interface is pretty standard from what you expect from any YouTube application. The interface is your typical YouTube interface, so it's not really a bad thing, and it operates pretty smoothly. Again, it's just your standard YouTube application, nothing stellar, nothing terrible. It does a job like you expect from a YouTube application, so we'll be moving on very quickly now. So we're gonna dive into Plex, and we're gonna get a little technical here, so just bear with me for a little bit if you're not that technical. So files with H.265 compression in MKV or MP4 file format is kind of a mess. For the most part, it's not that reliable. I would just completely say it's a lost cause if you're trying to do it on this media player over Plex. H.264 is a mixed bag. So files that are compressed with H.264 in MKV or MP4 file format is a mixed bag because anything between 1 to 10 megabits per second bit rate playback handles just fine. It opens almost instantly and it works phenomenal. Anything that's 15 megabits per second playback rating, it takes a good chunk of time to pre-render the video and buffer at the beginning. After that, it plays okay. Anything that is 20 megabits per second and beyond, it just crashes. Like literally, I'll get an error saying you can't play this video, it's a lost cause. So this video file that I have here is raw video footage from the same camera being used to record this video. It's 145 megabits per second, H.264, 4K, 60 frames a second. It will not play it back, but I'll just do it while I'm dialoguing and talking about the performance. I don't think it's a Wi-Fi adapter issue because it's Wi-Fi 4, but it should be able to handle 20 megabits per second bit rate easy, especially because I'm next to my router. I have full signal. I think it's a chipset issue that it can't handle the conversion being done on the fly from Plex server. Now, some people might want to complain about that, but it's hard to argue because again, this is a dirt cheap 4K HDR media player. I don't think it's something really to complain about, but it's something I do want to point out for Plex enthusiasts. There are screen mirroring apps available like this one, Web Video Caster Receiver. I'm not going to demonstrate. It requires you to pay for some of the services to use it to its full functionality. It's not as good as Chromecast technology. I'll put that right out there. But you can mirror pictures playing on your cell phone or video file to the Roku media player, but the experience is not that great. So nothing really going into details about. Of course, you want to add a channel. This is where you can look through all the content that is available to you. The selection is pretty large and wide. All the popular media playing apps you'd want, like other ones like say Hulu, for example, are available, but because I'm in Canada, it's not available to me. So the app availability will vary depending on where you live internationally around the world. Going down a little bit further to my feed, this is nothing special. You have subsections of movies and TVs. Even though it's called my feed, none of this stuff is interesting to me. I mean, of course, I won't lie that I am interested in South Park. The problem is a lot of this content seems to be just randomized, and a lot of it is paid content. So I'm not really interested in this stuff. I don't know where they get this from. But search is one of the most powerful things about this media player. So one day I was searching Hell's Kitchen, and what it does is searches across all applications that are available on the Roku Premiere. So for example, here it says this content is available on Roku channel, and the other one you saw is available on Apple TV, and some is available on Prime Video, and so on and so forth. So the Roku search will search through all applications. It does a great job. And of course, this is free content. Hell's Kitchen here is free to watch. It says free in HD. To be honest, the quality is more like DVD quality. It's not the best. And there's something very particular about the free content I want to mention is because Roku heavily advertises this media player and all the Roku devices as being accessible to free content, which is not a lie. The Hell's Kitchen I searched for is free. The reason I know it exists as free content is because I reviewed a different media player from Roku, which has a whole section here on the left side that I'm navigating, specifically saying free content. Even though that media player is very buggy, there was a dedicated section for free content. This media player does not have it at all. A lot of the interface is missing compared to other Roku media players I've reviewed. I'm not sure why there's not a consistent interface, but there's something strange going on here from Roku. And just to dive more into free content, you can go to Roku channel. In fact, if you go to adding a new channel, there's a free section where you can search applications that allow for free content. The problem is half of it is paid content within the app. So for example, if I go to the Roku channel, a lot of this is paid content. But if I were to search for free, you can't. It doesn't list where the free content is. You'll notice that Hell's Kitchen appears here because I recently searched for it because I knew it's free. But if you want to look for free content on your own, you can't. It's always hidden. You're watching mostly paid content or absolutely rubbish free material, which is nothing you'll probably ever watch in your life. So looking for free content is not that easy. There is a workaround, but again, it's not that simple. Is if you add a new channel and you search under the free content section, you'll be shown free content apps. But a lot of these apps also have paid content. So for example, if I go to Cineplex Store, yes, there's some free content, but a lot of it's paid. So you're not really filtered through on how easy it is to find free content. You have to really dig deep and find it yourself. So diving into the system settings menu, I'm not gonna go into all this stuff because there's a lot to cover in here, but a lot of it's pretty generic. in terms of networking performance and troubleshooting, adjusting your display settings and audio settings and tweaking all the other good stuff. One thing is guest mode, in which, if you're like hosting an Airbnb, you can have a guest mode enabled so people can't access your content and fiddle with the Roku too much. I have used this in my experience. It's pretty cool. It's a very simple but effective idea in that type of scenario. And of course, streaming channels is just literally what it says. It's basically streaming applications that you can search for and install on your Roku device. There's different categories you can search through. There's featured and free and all that other good stuff. But again, something, for example, like the free section, you're kind of limited to not knowing if it's going to have paid content and free content. Again, just using Cineplex Store as a random example. Overall, it's an okay media player. It's not the best. The Roku interface has always been boring and dull, nothing really changes there, but I have to admit it's very easy to use. And considering this is a 4K HDR media player at such a low price tag of $40 Canadian or $4 US, it's hard to argue you're not really getting your bang for buck. It has the top media playing apps. Again, depending on where you live, the app availability will differ. So this might be a media player worth considering due to its low price tag, but that's pretty much a wrap from me. So if you found this video useful, be sure to check out my social links in the video description. Hit the like button, it does help, subscribe, and thanks for watching.